In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to generate new app builds. All of the code in the app needs to be compiled through a build process before the app can be usable on a real device. Every time you submit a new build request, we are pulling the data from your website and using it to generate a new app build for you using our internal build servers. New builds will always use the latest public version of BuddyBoss App automatically. And if you are doing custom development, your Git repository that contains your custom code is going to be automatically merged with the core BuddyBoss App code during the build process. And you'll be able to define which branch from your Git repo should be merged. Note that you can also test your custom code changes in a test app without even requiring new builds. We cover how to do that in another tutorial. Here in the BuddyBoss App settings, we can see Connect, Configure, Build, and Publish. This is designed as a user flow that you should follow. Before creating your first build, you want to make sure that you've connected your app to this website using the Connect settings. And then you should also make sure that you've added all of the required information into the Configure settings. If you have not yet done these steps, then you will not be able to generate a build, as we will be missing a lot of information that is required to make the build. We have other tutorials explaining to you how to connect your app and how to configure all of the app settings. Also make sure that if you're planning to test your app from an iPhone, that you have already added your device into the list of registered iOS devices from the iOS settings in this Configure tab. If you have not done that already, then you will be unable to download test apps onto your iPhone. Note that this step is not necessary for testing on Android devices. You should also make sure that you've added your branding. In particular, you want to make sure that you've uploaded your app icons. And if you're planning to use a launch screen, you'll want to add a launch screen as well. These assets are built into the app and cannot be added after the build has been done. They require a new build to be updated. I'd also recommend adding some menus into your tab bar before creating your first build. You can successfully create a build without having done this. However, the app will be unusable until you've added some tabs, as we will have no content to actually display in the app. All right, let's go back to our build page. And then I'll click on Request Build. Note the information at the top of this page. It's showing how many builds I have remaining this month. Keep in mind that most changes in the app do not require a new build. You can even test your code changes without creating new builds. You only need new builds when you have updated your launch screen or app icons, you have changed any of the configure settings, including your app name, you want to update to the latest version of BuddyBoss App, or if you want to merge custom code changes into a build. When using a test app on your phone, you can always preview your code changes in that test app, but if you want people who are not developers to be able to see the changes, that's when you would want to merge the code changes into an actual build. All right, so let's go ahead and create a build. When you create a new build, the first step is to determine if it's going to be an iOS or Android build. You can also submit a request to build apps for both platforms at the same time, which is what I'll do right now. And then the next step is to determine if you want it to be a release app or a test app. Release apps are the ones that get published into the app stores. Note that creating a new release app does not auto-publish it. It just gives you a build that can be used for publishing later. When you're ready to publish your app, we will ask you which release app build version you want to be published. Test apps are the ones that are used for your internal testing and development. You can use a test app to play with your app before it's been published. You can also switch between your connected primary and secondary sites within a single test app. And as I mentioned before, you can also deploy custom code changes directly into your test apps if you're doing custom development. If this is your first build, you should make it as a test app so that you can download it afterwards and play with it on your phone. And again, if you're using an iPhone, make sure to register your device in the iOS configure settings before creating the build. We have other tutorials showing you how to install test apps to iOS and Android devices, and also how to switch between your connected sites from within your test apps. All right, let's go ahead and click Next Step. And I'm getting this notice. We're missing some information required to fulfill your build request. Please resolve the errors specified below and resubmit your request. So it looks like I'm missing the app name. If this happens to you, it just means you're missing some items that we need for the build. Go ahead and click on the Resolve button. So sure enough, I am missing an app icon name. So let me give it one. And then I'll click on Save Changes. All right, now let's go ahead and try generating a build again. I can come back to Build, and then I'll click on Request Build. And I'll check iOS, Android, and Test App again and click Next Step. and we can review this page to see all the info we've added. Note that for build version, this is not the version that displays in the App Store for your published app. That version is added to the App Store while publishing. This is an internal build version, which increases every time you create a new build. This build version does display in your app in the About screen, which can be accessed from your settings menu. This info is in the app mostly so that developers can reference which app build they are testing, and for BuddyBoss support to better assist you. If you really want this build version to match your published app version, you can click this pencil icon to override it, but that's not required. Once you're ready, you can come up here and click on Send Build Request. And then we are brought to this page showing the progress of our build request. The request has been submitted to our build servers. It will take about 5 to 10 minutes before the build process can begin. At any time, you can click on this Recheck Status Now button to check on what is happening. So I'll just pause for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back here and refresh the status. All right, let's click Recheck Status Now. Now we can see the status has been updated, and both of our builds have started. You should expect the build to take between 30 minutes to 1 hour in most scenarios. And now we can see that both our iOS and Android test app builds completed successfully. Since these are test app builds, I can just click on Install Test App to download this build directly to my phone. We can only do this for test apps. Release apps are a bit different, so let me show you how release apps work. I can close this, and I can filter this by release app. Since these are release apps, they cannot be installed directly to my device, as they will need to be published first. You can optionally click here to download this build file if you want to. You might want to download the build file if you plan to upload it into TestFlight, or if you want to publish it yourself. Our included publishing service will use whichever release build you select during the publishing process.